We are coming to you from the no longer embattled city of Los Angeles. We are safe, we are sound, thanks to our president who saved us from ourselves by calling in the National Guard to stop a conflict that never started, but could have, had he not acted to prevent an entirely fabricated crisis from spinning.
Well, he is a cruel, criminal, and mentally unstable man. And Duty to Warn was a book that came out when he was first in office. Psychiatrists across the country who don't ever really diagnose people that they don't serve personally came together and made a book, Duty to Warn, to tell the world what a narcissistic, mentally ill person.
Kimmel begins where America collectively groans, at the intersection of ego and chaos. He paints Trump as the only man who can turn a press conference into a self-congratulatory carnival.
And I think he's the worst thing that ever happened to the United States, and his cruelty knows no bounds. And when he is upset and humiliated and embarrassed, he has no control, and he goes apeshit. Can I say that? And, you know, he is the kind of person that is a grifter. And he is an evangelical preacher to people who believed that Celebrity Apprentice was true. And Celebrity Apprentice was not true.
The White House today with the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney. This poor guy, you know, Trump slapped a 35% tariff on Canada after claiming Canada is a significant source of migrants and fentanyl entering the United States. And now, in order to get relief from that tariff, Carney has to promise he'll cut off the flow of drugs coming over the Canadian border, which shouldn't be difficult because of all the fentanyl seized at the U.S. border last year, 0.2% of it came from Canada. So basically what Carney has to do is like convincing your toddler you got rid of the monster under his bed. He's gone now.
Saying that I'm a threat to humanity.
Yeah.
That's the President of the United States.
Saying that, yeah.
Now, when our feud started some 20-something years ago, he was a joke of a reality show guy that nobody respected or took seriously.
Yeah.
Especially at the beginning of The Apprentice, where we all knew it was all fallacy. It was fiction, you know, sold.
Trump's presidency has become the longest-running reality show on Earth. Except this time, there's no commercial break, and the host refuses to leave the stage.
If you look at D.C., you would right now, Mark, you could go out, take your family out to dinner, you could walk right down the middle of the street. There is no crime in D.C. When I got here, this place was a raging hellhole.
And now it's a raging heaven hole. Thank you, dear leader.
Rosie doesn't need setup lines. She just fires off reality like a comedian with a vendetta. She reminds everyone that Trump's presidential routine has evolved from make America great again to make every headache last longer.
He is a very unwell man.
Yeah, I agree.
In many ways, physically and mentally. Yeah. And I think he can't get over a grudge or a slight. He can't take any kind of joke or any kind of comment on who he is and what he is, because it's all built on smoke and mirrors.
I think
every day he says something that would rank right at the top of the most ridiculous things any president has ever said. And the people who work for him, they can't get enough of it.
What a difference the presidency makes, Jesse, right? I mean, we are now totally over that destructive, stupid era of toxic masculinity. And now we're in an era of real masculinity, thanks to the bold, muscular leadership of President Trump and our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth.
It sounded better in the original North Korean, but you get the idea.
Rosie paints a brutal picture of Trump at rallies, arms waving, voice booming, energy high on applause. She describes how his followers cheer as if watching a motivational speaker who accidentally wandered into politics. The irony, she says, is that Trump talks about unity while dividing everyone in sight. It's like watching a firefighter set his own blaze just to brag about putting it out.
Well, he is a cruel, criminal, and mentally unstable man. And Duty to Warn was a book that came out when he was first in office. Psychiatrists across the country who don't ever really diagnose people that they don't serve personally came together and made a book, Duty to Warn, to tell the world what a narcissistic, mentally ill person he is. They're attacking the First Amendment, and, you know, thank God America stood up and said, no way, Disney, we're not letting you get away with this.
Yeah, with Kimmel.
$4 billion in 4 days.
Yeah.
Billion with a B, Mitch.
That's insane.
Billion.
That was the American people saying, we have a voice, we have power, we're not going to watch your Mandalorian and your Disney shows.
They canceled ABC, canceled Hulu, canceled all the subsidiaries, and they felt it on their bottom line. And if they hadn't done that, they would have lost so much more.
Yeah.
And so Jimmy Kimmel is back, and he's better than ever. He didn't back down as a result. He went full force ahead.
Kimmel nods toward Trump's foreign trips, each one an awkward parade of handshakes, smirks, and accidental headlines. He laughs about how other leaders now treat Trump summits the way people treat family reunions. They show up, smile politely, and pray for an early exit. He's the first president to turn diplomacy into a photo opportunity contest and somehow still lose. Rosie adds that Trump's confidence is both his armor and his downfall. He struts like a man who's never been wrong, even when the evidence begs otherwise. She calls it the kind of delusion that could power a city if harnessed properly. Every setback only makes him double down, convinced that repetition can turn falsehoods into truth. It's not strategy, it's superstition disguised as certainty. Kimmel tackles Trump's handling of crises, each one treated like a public relations game show. When something goes wrong, he doesn't fix it, he rebrands it. Disasters become great achievements, failures are historic wins. Kimmel jokes that Trump could spill oil into the ocean and still call it a tourism boost. His ability to rename chaos as triumph is unmatched in modern politics. Rosie brings up Trump's daily media feuds, describing them as performance art for an audience of one. She mocks how he spends more time arguing with journalists than governing. If leadership were measured by tweets per hour, he'd be unstoppable. Rosie says his communication style is like a blender stuck on outrage, spinning endlessly without producing anything drinkable.
Illinois state and local officials strongly opposed troops being sent into the Windy City. President Trump responded to that by calling for the governor and mayor to be jailed. That's a normal thing for presidents to do, right? This campaign to own the libs and deport everybody with a vowel at the end of their name is the passion project of a sick, bald individual named Stephen Miller. He is Trump's deputy chief of staff, and he is doing everything he can to turn this country into a militarized zone.
Kimmel continues, amused by how Trump can contradict himself within the same breath and still call it strategy. He calls it the Schrodinger's cat of politics, both right and wrong until fact-checked. He wonders how a man so obsessed with winning manages to lose track of reality so often. Yet every contradiction somehow becomes a rallying cry, as if confusion itself were patriotic. Rosie laughs at the theatrics, how every photo op, every slogan, every press walk feels like a campaign ad filmed in a mirror. She says Trump treats governing like branding, where attention replaces accomplishment. The presidency, to him, isn't a duty, but a stage, and America is the audience trapped in the front row. Rosie's roast burns brightest when she compares his speeches to fireworks, loud, flashy, brief, and leaving behind smoke. Kimmel closes in with biting humor. He says Trump's legacy will be measured not in policy, but in punchlines. History books will struggle to find coherence between tweets, scandals, and tantrums, yet comedy will never run out of material. Kimmel calls him the only president to inspire an entire generation of political satire just by waking up in the morning. Rosie finishes the verbal demolition with precision. She calls Trump's presidency the world's most exhausting magic trick, where promises disappear, accountability vanishes, and applause fills the gaps. She says America didn't elect a leader. It hired a headliner who refuses to leave the stage after the encore. Every scandal feels like a rerun, every defense more desperate than the last. Yet somehow he still believes the crowd's laughing with him.
Our government is now officially shut down because we don't have funding to pay the federal workers. Trump really is running the country like it's one of his businesses. He said he would. Just to give you some perspective, the government being shut down is even worse than when it's up and running. Republicans would like you to believe that Democrats shut the government down, but the bill they wanted the Democrats to sign would knock out about 15 million Americans from...
Kimmel and Rosie turn that laughter into a mirror, reflecting the kind of chaos that could only exist in a country that's learned to expect absurdity before breakfast. Every punchline they deliver slices through the layers of spin that have turned politics into performance art. They don't need to exaggerate him. Trump already does that himself. The spectacle writes its own comedy, and they simply hold up the spotlight long enough for the audience to see it without the glitter. The crowd doesn't cheer because it's funny. They cheer because someone finally said out loud what everyone else has been whispering. Trump's presidency has become a case study in how far charisma can drag reason before it collapses. Rosie leans into that collapse, dissecting the theater of power that thrives on attention. She paints him as a man addicted to the sound of his own echo, unable to tell the difference between admiration and noise. Her words sting because they're true. Every headline that was meant to showcase control ends up proving chaos. Each public appearance feels like a sequel to confusion, and the world keeps tuning in because disbelief has become entertainment. Kimmel's sarcasm follows with precision, mocking the predictability of Trump's unpredictability. He reminds the audience that every outrage follows a pattern: denial, distraction, self-congratulation. It's the same act, recycled until it becomes ritual. The absurdity isn't in what Trump does, it's in how normal it's become to watch it unfold. Kimmel's laughter lands like commentary disguised as comedy, pulling the curtain back on a system that mistakes volume for leadership. Together, their mockery morphs into revelation. They aren't roasting for applause, they're diagnosing a spectacle that refuses to end. The stage lights might dim, but the script keeps writing itself, driven by ego too loud to fade. Trump doesn't just dominate the news cycle, he consumes it, turning every scandal into a rerun that demands attention. Kimmel and Rosie expose the fatigue of a country forced to laugh its way through disbelief, clinging to humor as the last form of protest against absurdity wearing a presidential seal.